am so amazed that the lies that have been stated about Planned Parenthood on this floor have been repeated again and again. And you know, it gets pretty bad when you're so outrageous that Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart start to look at what you're saying on the Senate floor. That's a rarity. It all started when Senator Kyl took to the floor and said that 90% of what Planned Parenthood does is abortions. Well, that was a little bit wrong. 90% of what Planned Parenthood does is health care, no abortions. As a matter of fact, it's 97%. And every dollar of federal funds goes to health care and may not, since the 70s, not one slim dime can go toward abortion. Now, Senator Vitter upped this now and now says 98% of what Planned Parenthood does is abortion. I don't know what he's thinking. But let me reiterate, Planned Parenthood is a nonprofit organization. He says they make a profit. You could say anything. It doesn't make it true. And I think it's interesting that in the 60s and the 70s, Planned Parenthood, which has become the prime target of the right-wing Republicans, drew the support of prominent members of the GOP. Richard Nixon signed family planning legislation that authorized federal funding for groups like Planned Parenthood. Former Senator Barry Goldwater's wife, Peggy, was a founding member of Planned Parenthood in Arizona. And former President George Herbert Walker Bush, as a Republican congressman from Houston, spoke frequently on the House floor about the issue. Now, it's astounding how the right wing of the Republican Party has walked so far away from their most revered leaders. But that's their choice. But it is also our choice as to whether we're going to stand here and take it or come here and rebut what they're saying. So count me in, and count the Democratic women and many men on this side of the aisle who have stood sentry on this and told the truth about this. And the truth is, we're in a budget debate, Mr. President. Everything the Republicans said is, we've got to close the deficit gap. We've got to cut spending, cut spending, cut spending. And we said, okay, we'll join you, but where were you during George Bush's days? You never said a word, but put that aside. We'll meet you, because when we had the majority and Bill Clinton was president, we're the only ones that did get a balanced budget and 23 million jobs. We know how to do it, and of course we are going to work with our colleagues. We met them over 70% of the way on spending cuts, but guess what? They are so ideological and so extreme that what you heard from Senator Vitter today is not discussion about the budget deficit and the fact that we have to get on top of it and get that budget balanced like we did under the Clinton days, but you heard about abortion, 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 which has nothing to do with the issue at hand, because not one slim dime of federal money has been able to be used for abortion since the 70s. And 97% of what Planned Parenthood does is health care, not abortion. So we know what the real priority of the Republicans in Congress, we know the real priority, we know what it is. It's an ideological agenda that, frankly, put women's health and women's lives at risk. Here we had this huge debate over the budget. Tough, getting down, we were all sweating it out within an hour of the day, of the moment that the government would shut down. And the two things that the Republicans insisted on voting on a budget bill, have nothing to do with the budget. Because for every dollar that Planned Parenthood gets to help them do cancer screening for women, Pap smears, breast cancer screening, STDs, and they do for men as well, HIV/AIDS testing, blood pressure checks, diabetes checks, and they charge a sliding scale. You walk in there, you have no insurance, you have no money, you get the services for free. If you have some, you pay some. The bottom line is, this is what they're holding up this agreement over. And they forced us to vote on Planned Parenthood and, Mr. President, repealing health care reform. Now, what I say is, it's extraordinary because we met them on the numbers, but in order to appease their right-wing agenda, they're forcing these votes. And if those votes were to pass, who gets hurt? Women and their families. I have some letters I've received from California because 775,000 women are served by Planned Parenthood clinics in California. 775,000 women. That's actually more than some states have. And I'm going to share a letter. I've shared a few of them. I just got one today, Mr. President. Dear Senator Boxer, I don't write to you often because you already stand up and fight for everything I believe in. I heard you on NPR this morning talking about women's health and the cuts the Republicans want to make to Planned Parenthood. I'm a 42-year-old married professional. My husband and I aren't in the highest bracket, but our combined income puts us in $170,000 a year range. Frankly, we're happy, more than happy to pay our fair share of taxes for the things that will help our society. We are appalled by the budget discussions. If you really want to cut spending, do so where it's really outrageous. Look at defense, look at the military. There's 60% right there. But what has me outraged right now is the Republican Party willing to shut down the government over a few dollars for Planned Parenthood. If you really cared about limiting abortion, funding family planning is the first step. She says, when I was 20 years old, I was working my way through school. I was a sophomore in college with limited income, no parental support, no health insurance. The one thing I did have access to medically was Planned Parenthood. The services were on a sliding scale. So at my income of $850 a month, a gynecological exam was $10. That price meant I went. I also got my birth control pills there. However, the most significant crossroad in my life came about because of Planned Parenthood. My family has a history of female cancer, she says. I had a Pap smear come back abnormal when I was 21. Had it not been for Planned Parenthood, I would not have been able to afford the annual Pap smear. 2, Planned Parenthood did a biopsy on the abnormality. Again, it was a sliding scale, and I don't remember how much it was, but it was something I could manage. Biopsy. 3, biopsy showed it was a potentially very dangerous precancerous growth that needed to be removed. 4, I did eat beans and rice for the next 2 months to pay my share for removing this growth. 5, I had to have Pap smears twice a year for the next several years. Again, all I could afford was Planned Parenthood. Frankly, if it wasn't for Planned Parenthood, there's a pretty good chance I wouldn't be here today. So this fight, she writes, is not about abortion, it's about women's health. So I have to say, these are the letters I've been getting day after day after day. And I am very proud of the people that have stood up and told the truth to counter the lies that I've heard, frankly, from members of Congress. This woman's name is Heather Jones from Costa Mesa. The bottom line is, if you turn and look at the 2 votes we're going to have today, they both hurt women disproportionately. This isn't about budget. If it was about a budget, they'd give more money to Planned Parenthood. because for every dollar that they invest, we save $4 on the other side. What would have happened if Heather didn't find out that she had a dangerous precancerous growth? That would have gone forward. She would have gotten cancer. Lord knows what it would have cost. She didn't make any money at that time. She would have had to have help from her county. It would have cost taxpayers. She would have been ill, gone through hell and back fighting this, and who knows if she would have made it. I'm happy to be in the Senate at this moment in history because, to me, these are the issues. These are the issues. And I have to say, these are the issues that I had in my campaign. And they were very direct. So I want to thank the people of California for sending me back here. We have 38 million people, the largest state in the union. Every time, you take away something from a Planned Parenthood or another health care center, you hurt more of my people than anybody else because we're such a large state.